Did you know that there is a tickling spell, or a cheering charm, or a hex to make your enemy dance? Well, if your answer is no, or if you're just curious about all the crazy spells the wizarding world has to offer, then this video is for you. As a massive Harry Potter fan who analyzes the books and movies side by side, I have come to realize that there are a ton of spells used in the books that never made their way into the movies, and because of this, a lot of Harry Potter fans have never heard of them. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about 20 different interesting, funny, and extremely useful spells that got passed over in the films, and I'll reveal exactly how they appear in the original books. My name is Gibby and welcome back to Fact or Fantasy, a channel where we discuss Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, analyzing lore and more each and every week. Full transparency, I was originally planning on doing a video about every spell in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, and well, I got a little in over my head there because I found over 240 different spells across all Harry Potter media. Then I narrowed it down to the spells only in the books and movies, and there were still over 100. So in order to avoid making the video an hour long, I sorted through the spells and found 20 that don't make an appearance in the films. Unfortunately, there wasn't a spell to get people to subscribe, except maybe my hypnotic voice. But if you're new here and haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button as I upload Harry Potter videos each week. And I don't know if you all noticed, but recently YouTube added a hype option so you can help smaller channels grow. So my request is that if by the end of this video you learn something new, you go ahead and throw some hype points onto this video to help it reach other Harry Potter fans just like yourself. But anyway, enough of my yapping, let's dive into our 20 incredible spells that never made it into theaters. First up, we have Glissio, the sliding spell. This is a very interesting one and a fun one, as it turns any set of stairs into a chute or a slide. In the books, we see this twice. First, we see it in the Order of the Phoenix without knowing its name. In fact, no one technically casts a spell, but rather it's just an enchantment on the stairs to the girls' dormitories. As Harry and Ron go to deliver some news to Hermione, they get halfway up the stairs when it flattens beneath them, causing them both to slide back down to the ground. Evidently, around the year 993, the Hogwarts founders enchanted all the steps to the girls' dormitories with this spell, as they never trusted the boys in the school. Then the second time we see this spell in the books, it is actually used by Hermione as the trio are running from some Death Eaters in the final book. So while the spell might seem funny, both times we see it in the book, it serves quite a practical purpose. Now moving on to our second spell, we have one of my favorites, which is Wadiwasi. Why is this one of my favorites? Well, because it helps get rid of Peeves in the third book. This spell is used by Professor Lupin during his first day in class as he takes his students to the teacher's lounge to handle the boggart. While en route, they run into Peeves, who is trying to stuff gum inside of a keyhole. Peeves makes fun of Lupin, who he must have known many years prior, but Lupin calmly uses the spell Wadiwasi to shoot the gum up Peeves' nostril. This sends the poltergeist flying away immediately. And since we're on this theme, let's head into spell number 3 that never made the films, because it too was used in the books to deal with our friend Peeves. Sadly, Peeves the poltergeist was entirely removed from the movies, but as readers know, it was almost impossible to make Peeves shut up, unless you use this spell. In The Half-Blood Prince, Harry is trying to deal with Kreacher and Dobby, who are fighting each other on the ground. Peeves is in the room taunting and egging them on, so Harry gets him to shut up by using the spell Langlock, which sticks the recipient's tongue to the roof of their mouth. Thankfully, this quickly shut up Peeves, who then zoomed out of the room. Fun fact about this spell, by the way, it was most likely invented by Severus Snape. After all, it first appeared in The Half-Blood Prince because Harry read about it in Snape's old potions book. But anyway, let's head into spell number 4, which is Impervious. This is quite a useful spell and one that appears a couple of times throughout the books. The first time we see it is in The Prisoner of Azkaban as Harry is playing Quidditch in the pouring rain. In the movie, we see a dark and rainy game in which Harry is wearing goggles, but in the book they didn't have goggles. He simply wore his glasses and they were drenched, making it impossible for him to find the snitch. So after calling a timeout, Hermione ran into the Gryffindor team huddle and demanded Harry's glasses. Harry handed them over and she used the Impervious spell, which cleared them up right away, and made it so that any water that fell on the lenses would just slide right off. The second time we see this is then years later in the Deathly Hallows as the trio infiltrate the Ministry of Magic. Ron has to go take care of Yaxley's office, which is raining, and Hermione tells Ron to try Finite Incantatem to get rid of the rain, but to use Impervious to protect Yaxley's things inside of the office. The first spell is mentioned in the movie, but Impervious is left out. Hermione also tries this spell when they're in the Lestrange Vault in the Deathly Hallows, but unfortunately it only works on water, not solid objects like the multiplying treasures that were burning their skin. Next up, we have spell number 5, which is Densago. Honestly, I have no idea how to say this one, but we'll just go with it. This spell recently appeared in my Movies vs. Manuscript series, as it relates to a moment from the books that never appeared in the movies, and that is when Draco and Harry attack each other. That's right, they actually attack each other. No, not in Half-Blood Prince, in the Goblet of Fire. During a tense moment after the Slytherins show Harry their Potter Stinks badges, Harry and Draco square up with their wands and both cast spells at the same time. Their spells collide with one another and ricochet into Hermione and Goyle. Hermione gets hit with Draco's spell, which is Densago, and it essentially causes her front teeth to grow to a ridiculous length. Hermione, who already had big buck teeth, ran off crying from embarrassment after the whole event, and Madame Pomfrey had to help her out. Also, I'm pretty sure that Madame Pomfrey shrunk Hermione's teeth down even smaller than they were before, getting rid of her big buck teeth. Or maybe I'm just completely making that up in my head. Let me know in the comments because I can't remember. Anyway, spell number 6 today actually coincides with this moment because you might be wondering what spell hit Goyle. Well, Harry tried to cast Furnunculus, a pimple jinx. Goyle's face burst out in boils and pimples after this attack, and he too had to be taken to the hospital wing. But this isn't the only time that this hex is used, and the second time is much better. Pretty much at the end of the 4th book, after Voldemort had returned, Draco and his goons come to taunt Harry on the Hogwarts Express. Unfortunately for them, Fred, George, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were in no mood to joke about the death of their friend, and they all simultaneously cast spells at the 3 Slytherins. In a split second, Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle dropped to the ground, and soon after, Crabbe's face sprouted tentacles. It turned out that George had used a Jelly Legs curse on Crabbe, which combined with the pimple jinx had caused tentacles to sprout out of his face. Crazy, right? I kinda wish we would have seen that in the movie, not because it would have been pretty, but because Draco and his boys had it coming to them for quite a while. Now let's head into our 7th and 8th spells for today, which I am combining because they kind of are in the same category. These are Tergio, which is a wiping spell, and Scourgify, which is a cleaning charm. Both of these are used throughout the books as a way for characters to clean. Whether it's Molly Weasley doing the dishes or Nymphadora Tonks cleaning out Hedwig's cage, these are always handy to have in your back pocket. These 2 charms are definitely ones that I wish we could transfer to the real world. I'm not a clean freak, but I do like to have things organized and clean in my house, and this would make it so much easier. Now that I think about it, it's actually kind of crazy that the Wizarding World is as dirty as we see it in the movie, given the fact that they can literally clean anything in a split second. Anyway, we're into spell number 9, and that is quite an interesting one. Anapneo is known as a healing spell or charm, but essentially what it does is clear someone's throat. For example, in the Half-Blood Prince, we meet Marcus Belby, who always was a little too eager for food. One time he swallowed food a little too fast and began to choke, but thankfully Slughorn was there to save the day and calmly used Anapneo to clear Belby's airway. And look at that, we're already halfway through our spells for today. Well, technically, I guess not yet, as we first need to look at spell number 10, which is Specialis Revelio. If you've played Hogwarts Legacy, then you're very familiar with Revelio, as I used it about every 5 seconds in the game, but that is just a basic version of this more advanced spell which reveals previously performed spells or incantations. For example, in the Half-Blood Prince, Hermione uses it in the potions book Harry finds to see if she can reveal any dark properties in it. Then it appears again later in the book as Ron, Harry, Hermione, and Ernie Macmillan all use it in Slughorn's potions class to try to reveal the contents of a poison. Now before I head into the back half of this video, I want to give a big thank you to Jason, Joshua, Timothy, Robo Steve, and the rest of my incredible members who help make videos like this possible every month. And a special shout out to Leon, our most recent member of the community. Now with that being said, let's head back into our spells and pick up with where we left off at number 11. This spell is Deletrius, and as you might be able to put together on your own, it is an eradication spell. Specifically, it helps get rid of previous spells. A great example of this in the books is after the Quidditch World Cup when the Dark Mark is in the sky, Amos Diggory uses Deletrius to get rid of the mark. So this probably comes in handy quite a bit when you're fighting dark wizards. Now on to spell number 12, we have another fun one that Harry got from Snape's own potions book. Muffliato was invented by Snape during his time as a student at Hogwarts, and then later used by Harry and Ron, who didn't want to be overheard as they talked during class. So what does the spell do? Well, it essentially muffles noise for everyone else but yourself. Kind of. It's pretty weird. The best example is that if you and your friend wanted to talk during class, you could put a Muffliato hex on your teacher, and they wouldn't be able to hear you speaking, as they'd suddenly get a buzzing noise in their ear. Not anything too loud or crazy, just a quiet white noise that blocks out whispering in the background. At first, Hermione was very against this, but she was just against the Half-Blood Prince potions book in general. But later she came around to the usefulness of this spell, as she even cast it a couple of times in the Deathly Hallows when they were on the run. Next up, we have our 13th charm, which is the 4-point spell. There isn't really a crazy word for this, as I believe Harry just says "point me" while holding his wand, and then it essentially floats up and acts as a compass. Harry uses this in the maze during the last task of the Triwizard Tournament. It helps him navigate the maze and stay aware of which direction he's heading, and honestly, at the time, it would have been super useful. But in today's day and age, with smartphones, I don't know if there would be a major benefit to a wand compass. Random thought here, by the way, but I wonder if there were any spells from hundreds of years ago in the wizarding world that eventually went out of fashion because of the adoption of new technologies. Obviously, the wizarding world is quite set back compared to the Muggle world in the books, but there had to have been things that they eventually said, you know what, this spell is worse than the Muggle technology. Let me know in the comments what you think those old spells might have been. Our 14th spell today, which never made the movies, is Bluebell Flames. Now technically, I guess this kind of made the movie, because in the book, this is the spell that Hermione uses to set Snape's cloak on fire. But what we get in the film isn't anything like the description in the book. In fact, the flame is a floating blue ball of fire in a jar. Then she just does the same thing on Snape's cloak. It's also known as cold fire because, well, it's blue. Despite the flame in the jar not making it into the first movie, the Deathly Hallows films give a shout out as Ron returns to Harry and Hermione, and while he and Harry are sitting in their tent, he says something about always loving the little fires that Hermione creates. So that's a nice callback. Moving on, we have our 15th missing spell of the day, and that is Apparesium. This is another revealing charm, but one specifically designed to reveal invisible writing. Can you guess where this shows up in the books? If you guessed the Chamber of Secrets, you'd be correct. Hermione uses the charm on Tom Riddle's diary when they're trying to find any secret writing on the blank pages. But due to the complex nature of the magic in the diary, nothing is revealed. And with that, we're into our final 5 spells. First, at number 16, we have Defodio. This is an interesting one as it allows the user to gouge through hard objects like stone. Miranda Goshawk talks about it in her Book of Spells by saying that it's used by the likes of herbologists digging for Snargaluff, as well as treasure hunters uncovering ancient tombs. No matter what you need it for, Defodio will get you through that rock like butter. So when is it used in the books? Well, when the trio are trying to escape from Gringotts on a dragon, it's not just a straightforward path upward. That would be ridiculous. No, in the book, they are literally in an underground safe, and so all 3 of them use Defodio to carve through the rocks to allow the dragon to escape upward. Next, at number 17, we have a fun one, which is Orchideus. Despite having hideous in its name, it is a spell that shoots flowers out of the tip of your wand. Whether you're a magician for muggles or simply a romantic, this sweet spell can help you out. In the book, we only see it when Ollivander is doing the Weighing of the Wands during the Triwizard Tournament. This is a part of the book that the movie never included, which had Ollivander testing out each champion's wand to ensure that it was okay to use during the tournament. When he came to Fleur's wand, he tested it by producing orchids out of the tip and then giving them to her. And speaking of lighthearted spells, our 18th is quite a cheerful one, as it literally is a cheering charm. Now technically we don't hear about the incantation for this, but we learn about it in Harry's 3rd year as Flitwick taught the 3rd year's cheering charms for a class. They had to test it out on one another, and the class ended quite happy as all the students were cheerful by the end. Now this is kind of a crazy spell, as it literally has the ability to alter emotions drastically. Technically, I don't know if you can perform this on yourself, but if you can, then that would be insane. Also, I don't know the practicality of this charm or why it was being taught in school. Is the idea that anytime you're sad, you should just use a cheering charm on yourself and your troubles go away? We see that obviously wizards still have troubles of their own, so I'm really curious to know how many wizards were actually using cheering charms on a regular basis, and why was this even in their lesson plan? But anyway, moving on to spell number 19, we have Tarantellegra, which is a spell that causes the recipient's legs to dance uncontrollably. And while we're at it, I'll tell you about spell number 20, because it happens at the same time in the book, and that is Ricta Sempra. No, not Sectum Sempra, Ricta Sempra. Very different, although ironically, they're used and received by the same people. How? Well, do you remember the dueling club Lockhart started in Harry's second year? If you only remember the movie version, then you have no idea what these spells are, because in the book, Draco and Harry use very different spells on each other. They're actually quite accurate to what you would think an 11-year-old would be able to come up with. Draco uses Tarantellegra on Harry to make his legs dance like crazy, and Harry uses Ricta Sempra on Draco to make him laugh, as that is a tickling charm. That's right, a tickling charm. I guess there's a spell for everything. Now, of course, everyone is more familiar with Snape's darker version of the spell, which is Sectum Sempra, and in The Half-Blood Prince, Harry uses it on Draco to great effect. Almost too great of an effect had Snape not been there. I guess one could say that Sectum Sempra is tickling gone a little too far. Hey there, this is Gibby from the future editing this video right now, and I realized I made a minor mistake because Harry does actually say Ricta Sempra in the movie when he's dueling Draco. The difference is that after he says this spell, the movie has a white light shoot out of his wand, hit Draco, knocking him about 15 feet backwards and spinning in the air, as if it's an attack spell, when in reality in the book, it literally just makes Draco double up from laughter. I can see why they changed this for the film, but I just wanted to clarify that the word itself, Ricta Sempra, is actually in the movie, it's just completely the wrong spell. Anyway, back to the video. Now before you go, I actually have a bonus spell that I wanted to mention, and that is the jinx that Hermione put on the Dumbledore's Army sign-up list. Without telling anyone, she cursed it so that whenever someone signed their name, a magical contract was put between them and the club. If they ever snitched or betrayed on Dumbledore's army, they would break out in boils that would spell sneak across their face. We learn about this after the fact as Hermione tells Ron and Harry what she did, and then later we see this punishment take place when Marietta Edgecombe betrays Dumbledore's army to Umbridge. Cho and Harry end up getting in an argument about it because Cho says that it was a mean trick by Hermione, but Harry defends Hermione as he is upset that Cho's best friend betrayed the group. Anyway, that is something I wish we could have seen in the movies, but I get it's a little too deep of a cut for the movie to explain easily. But on that note, that wraps up all of the spells for this video. Comment your thoughts below and let me know what fun spell you'd come up with if you could invent your own. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.